I'm Loretta Vendetta, author of Bloodline 7, and I'm here with my colleague.
I'm Justin Deering, author of The End of the World Delusion, and I'm here with my colleague, and we're here to discuss religion. Loretta, you were telling me that you had done some interviews recently.
I did. I did several, actually. It was regarding the Trinity, if you believe in a Trinity, and why. So it was pretty. The feedback was actually alarming. It was not what I expected, and it took it took on a life of its own. Like after the first interview, it changed the whole dynamics of the book. It changed the whole dynamics of what I had prepared to put in the book. I mean, it was a raw footage of every interviewee, and it was phenomenal. It was a rage of emotions, disappointments. It was food for thought.
Now, the Trinity is the idea of the God the Father, God the Son, and God the Holy Spirit, or the Holy Ghost.
Correct.
And
Old Testament has Holy Ghost. New Testament has Holy Spirit. It was replaced.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, but this whole idea of the Trinity isn't in the Old Testament or the New Testament. It's nowhere in the Bible.
It's not even in the Bible. In fact, it's the concept. By human perceptions, it exists, yes. But in the Bible, no, it does not. It's just in concept.
This is something that the early church authors came up with hundreds of years after the fact.
Several, yes. Yes, several denominations, in fact, adapted that Trinity.
All right, so what I'm curious about is the people that you interviewed. You asked them, do you believe in the Trinity? And then they would come up with all kinds of answers.
Yes.
Were they mostly yes, mostly no, or were they all over the map?
They were morally confused. A lot of them were very confused.
Yes.
A lot of them were raised a certain way, and then once they got into the adulthood, they kind of still believed what they were raised to believe.
Right.
But they were confused, and no one has ever stopped them to question them. What is the Trinity? Do you believe in God? Do you believe in the Holy Spirit? Is Jesus real? No one ever, I find it appalling that not one adult sat, other than my atheists, which I enjoy, none of them sat to actually think about the God, I mean, just God and Jesus and the Holy Spirit. No one ever sat and just thought about it. No one. It's just amazing. I mean, rather it's a concept, it's real, it's not. No one ever went back to do research. They just believed what their parents taught them and what the religion taught them at a young age, and they just kept going. And that was it.
Now, most people are taught certain things when they're young, and maybe their beliefs will change over time, but not very substantially, because most people can't get it out of their heads. They were taught one thing from birth, and if they grow up and find out that things are actually a different way, it's very hard for them to get that initial image out of their head. So whatever they were taught the first time, that's just what feels right to them. No matter what else they really think, or no matter what else logic and science might dictate, their reason can't really overpower that very emotional, well, this is what I know, and this is what I'm used to.
Exactly. And the thing about it is they've become complacent. They're stuck in it's comfortable for them. They're in a comfort zone. It feels good to them. No one steps outside of that. And the fear of actually stepping outside of that, it puts them in a chokehold. They can't handle it. They don't like to change. They don't want anything new. So they stay right where they are.
Now, what I find fascinating is just how much things are in the Bible, or how many things that are not in the Bible at all, that many Bible believers actually believe. The Trinity is a great example, and there's lots of other ones too. There's, take Noah's Ark.
Yeah.
All right, this whole idea of a worldwide flood.
Right.
The original Hebrew text used the word earth. It covered the earth, meaning earth like dirt. It covered the ground.
Right.
They didn't necessarily mean the entire planet.
Exactly.
At the time that was written, people didn't even realize that the world was round. So
right, exactly.
The idea of a worldwide flood, they thought the world was much smaller than it actually is.
Absolutely, that's right. That's right. It's
so
amazing.
So these people today who take everything very literally, they have a literal understanding of the Bible. They think, oh yeah, the entire earth, all the continents, everywhere from Australia to the North Pole, everything was covered in a flood, which is ridiculous.
It's absurd. I mean, I can't even. It's just overwhelming. It's overwhelming because people, number one, they have to put science into the equation. A lot of people especially in the religion I was brought up in, science is considered bad. Like, we're right, they're wrong. And they won't, people just, their head, they're brainwashed, they're mind controlled. They won't go outside of science. I mean, they won't go outside of religion, pardon me. They will just stick to what they're told to stick with. And it's just sad. It's a tragedy.
You know, there was a debate a while back. Would the world be better off without religion?
Love it. I saw it.
You saw
Thank
that?
you. Yes, I love it.
One of the participants in the video made the point that what religion you are is an accident of birth. And at first it's like, oh, come on, we live in a free society, we choose our own religion. But do we really choose our own religion? Because think about it. If you're born in India, you're most likely going to be born a Hindu.
Right.
If you're born in the United States, you're going to most likely be born a Protestant. If you're born in South America, most likely a Catholic. Now, there's exceptions, of course.
Right.
If you're born to a Hindu family in America, you'll still be more likely to be born a Hindu. So it is an accident of birth. It's what
Pretty much it's the culture. Religion and culture to me are just a match made in heaven. It really is.
Yeah, no pun intended.
Yeah, I mean, it is what it is. You have different environment, climate. You have a lot of things, different eras, different centuries. I mean, it's so much to consider that, especially the Bible alone, that's antiquity in itself. That's just, I mean, starting from the Dead Sea Scrolls, you know, the Apollo Codex. I mean, it's just so much to consider when you're learning and taking in knowledge, spiritual knowledge. It's just so much to consider.
It is, and you know, you say the Bible, like there's only one Bible.
That's another thing. There's hundreds floating around, different versions, different, you know, it's different religions have these Bibles to their likings. You know, everything is sorted out the way they want it to be for their members.
And even different denominations of Christianity have their own
Absolutely,
Bibles.
absolutely.
I mean, Catholics have books in the Bible. It's not necessarily the Protestant version. The Mormons, of course, have their own version.
Right.
Now, you were mentioning something earlier about what you were raised as. You were raised as a Jehovah's Witness.
Yes, I was raised as a Jehovah's Witness. I sure was. And I'm the rejected daughter because I opted out at 3 years old, 4 years old, and 5 years old. By the time 6 came, I was like, this is not right. By the time 7 came, my whole life changed because I started, my mouth, I started speaking up and I started questioning. And when my religious affiliates and authorities got involved, they told my parents, you know, don't, she's not understanding. She's retarded. Just push her aside. And that's what they did. She's not grasping. We're not going to waste time. Push her aside. And let's move on. She's the devil. She's Satan. Basically.
So you just weren't getting it. You weren't comprehending.
I could not fit their teachings in my current reality. And so because I couldn't do that, it was a problem for them. Wasn't a problem for me. It was a problem for them.
Well, it actually worked out quite well for you.
I'm honored. I'm honored because while they were learning their organization's teachings, I was connected to God. I saw something they didn't see. When you're on the outside looking in, you see things differently. Yeah, so it was a blessing. Did I know? No, at the time I didn't. I was a young girl. I didn't know anything. I was in a mind trap, and it's molded my mindset. So now I'm just starting to see the light. I mean, like part 1 actually it's about the subconscious and conscious mind. You have that battle going back and forth. When you have a religion controlling your mind, do you know how hard it is to make decisions in your life? I mean, you're an author of basically about doomsday. The world is coming to end, the predictions. My whole life is around that. My whole life surrounds that. My parents taught me that the world is coming to an end any minute. Libraries are bad. Don't go into the library. It's like Satan. You can't read other literature if it doesn't come from our organization. So what does that do to 6 kids? Fundamentally, it's a platter, a suicide platter. We were psychologically raped. And it's not fair. It's not fair to 6 kids to suffer. Beautiful, artistic children. I don't mean autistic, artistic. They were so, we're all very intelligent, but they don't, again, I was rejected. So I saw things differently and I made it out. I made it out. My other siblings are having a hard time adjusting to reality. My parents created a whole different world for them. And it's very rough. And I feel bad. I feel sad. It's just like a drug user. If you don't hit rock bottom and just submit to a higher realm, supreme being, I don't care what you call them, just submit yourself, form a organic relationship with the higher realm, you're going to be lost for the rest of your life. You're going to be lost. It's just no way around it.
Well, that was a big part of your book, how the Jehovah's Witnesses had treated you, how they as an organization kind of brainwashed your family, and when you wanted to get out and when you wanted nothing to do with it, right away that's kind of cast you, that set you on a different path from the rest of your family. And that's something that's going to affect you for the rest of your life. It'll haunt you for the rest of your life.
It's a curse. It's actually a curse. Your mind, when you're controlled and your thoughts are controlled, like they had such a strong grip on our intellect, it was such a strong grip that when you, like I said, I had that battle going on. I was like, I know better, but that subconscious is like a sponge. It just soaked up everything, and it just plays against each other, and it keeps going and going until finally the death of my sister. I'll never forget the moment I was trying to protect my mom's feelings, and I didn't want to tell her she passed away, so I wanted to get her to the hospital so we can get ambulance or whatever, just a whole nursing team together in case she passed out. We got her on the way to the hospital is when a lot of things started to click. I had to, for once, and I didn't know this, but my subconscious, my conscious mind, my unconscious, my heart, everything had to get along for that ride to the hospital.
Yeah, you had to be in perfect sync.
Exactly.
Mind, body, spirit.
That right there, if there's any other time, this time was the time that I had help from God. It was just phenomenal. There's no way I couldn't cry. I had to laugh in the middle of this. I couldn't give it away that my sister had passed away. And to babysit pain like that, it's unbearable. Unbearable. I have different hearts in my hand. I don't want to wreck the lady that's driving. I was in the back seat as a passenger. My mother was in the front seat. My best friend was driving. And it's just hard. I had to keep everyone laughing. And my mom, she was like, something is wrong. What's going on? Oh, nothing, Mom, nothing. That was the moment of time. That was like the truth came out. And then from her funeral, a lot of things started popping up. A lot of red flags started popping up. I hugged my sister. I see my best friend. I see my best friend from elementary school. Why do I see my best friend, not my sister? Like the weirdest things started happening. And that's when I put two and two together. I'm like, oh my gosh, all that guilt that I held in for so long from us swapping bloods, as blood sister was against the rules in the religion. So it's like I held on for this false guilt for so long. That's why in the book, it's like I lived a lie. I lived a lie. I didn't have to, a little girl should not grow up and have to have all that guilt for what? It's like I was forever doing something wrong when I really wasn't. I wasn't.
So a lot of these other religions, it's not just Jehovah's Witnesses. Your experience matches a lot of others. So I feel like what your book talks about, even though it's specific to you and your situation, and the context is what the Watchtower did to you and how they treated you and your family, there's a lot of other kind of cults. Dr. Phil called this a silent epidemic.
Because we are going to deal with a silent epidemic. We are talking about extreme religious groups that some people refer to as cults, and I'm talking about things that are going on right here in the United States. Many of them operating in the name of God.
We're kind of creeping into, they're kind of creeping into our society where they have these compounds and they kind of set people apart, and they teach them slowly they start getting them onto a completely different path from what the mainstream is on. And this is how things like the Jonestown incident occurs, and this is how things like the Waco incident occurs. All these problems that we have, these cults aren't just some minor thing that happen on the fringes of society. They happen everywhere. Yes. They're all over the place. Yes. And the Watchtower may not be as extreme as some of the cults that we see, but that's because they're so big. They can't afford to be that extreme. And yet what they do is still pretty horrible, isn't it?
Well, they have a good old saying, if you don't believe in something, you'll fall for anything. And that's true. But I always tell people, and a mind is a terrible thing to waste.
I always hear a mind is a terrible thing.
Yes, it can be. It could be your own worst enemy. Yes, but the thing about it is, this is why I put curse in this book, because you can curse yourself. It's whatever your mind believes. That can be an awful curse. I mean, I didn't want to freak people out, so I changed the cover. They thought spooky stuff, oh, witch spells. No, this book is about your relationship with a higher realm, your relationship with God, the organic truth. And part 2 goes pretty much into that section, really hard. It's to me, it's like I said, it's a tragedy. It's a tragedy what these religions do. It's a tragedy, even going back down to, let's say, for example, the Pope. Real estate, real estate, real estate. He can't get married because of what? Real estate. The wife or whoever he marries.
So what you're talking about is, in the Catholic Church, why aren't priests allowed to marry? The historical reason being, when a priest dies, if he's married, his wife and his family, his offspring will inherit his land.
Exactly.
But if he's single, the church gets to inherit that land.
Thank you.
And
Exactly.
the church would become a very powerful organization.
That's right.
With a little rule like that. All we have to do is remove the right to marry, and boom.
That's it.
Done.
Yes. So it goes back to them having their own selfish agenda. They put what they want to put in there to actually control the members, control the money, the hedge funds, and the real estate. In my
and
belief,
it's a violation of people's basic rights.
it is.
And this is not just me saying that. If you look at the UN Charter of Human Rights,
yes.
one of them is that people should be allowed to marry.
Right.
If you want to be in the Catholic Church, they actually take that right away. So
Right,
they're
exactly.
literally violating people's
Right.
rights.
Absolutely, absolutely. And you know, it's sad because when you crack the code, people on the outside are Christians, typically religious people. They think
Like
you're
mainstream Christianity.
Yes, they think, oh, you're the devil. Oh, really? Oh, you're Satan. No, that's not true. That's not true. That's why I say in my Trinity interviews, the atheists to me were more connected to God than the Christians. I was appalled. I can't even get over those interviews. Unbelievable.
Well, I want to talk to you more about those, but first I wanted to go back to something else you mentioned, which is that if you're not with us, if you're not part of our belief systems, you're with the devil. And that's one of the biggest problems that people have with religions in general. Dawkins makes this point in the God Delusion, that it always divides people into us versus them. So if you see things if you're coming from a Jewish perspective, you've got the Jews, you got the Gentiles, right? Or if you're Muslim, you've got the Muslims and you've got the infidels. Or if you're Christian, you've got the believers and you've got the non-believers.
Exactly.
And a lot of them are so restrictive that if you're even the wrong strain of Christianity, they kind of want nothing to do with you.
Apostates. That's what we are.
And I've talked to people who really believe that all the other religions in the world are caused by the devil. So they feel fully justified in dividing the world and to say, hey, either you follow Jesus and you go through and you get to the kingdom of God, or you don't follow Jesus and there's some other system of belief. It doesn't matter what it is, because whatever it is, the devil caused it.
Exactly.
All these other systems of beliefs, the devil caused them.
And that's sad. It's a tragedy because a lot of times they're walking into church serving the devil and don't even realize it. And the thing about it is, that's why I had to do the part 1 and part 2. Part 1, it will focus throughout the book what the devil wants from you. And part 2, it's what God expects from you. So it's just crucial information. Again, it goes back to cracking the code. And it's like we're not supposed to do that. It's like how thou shalt not. Now how can you do this? I mean, this is wrong. This is wrong. I'm blasphemy, right? It's like, oh, you're going against God's word. No, I'm not.
Now, I want to go back to the atheist for a minute, because in my book, I actually quote from David Silverman, the president of American Atheists. Mm-hmm. And he says that he feels sorry for all the people who believe in doomsday, because what are they going to do the day after when the rapture hasn't happened, the book of Revelation hasn't come true, we're all still here, and they've just given away all their money? What's their life going to be like then? And that's one thing that, at least if you're atheist, you're not going to fall for any of these doomsday predictions, right? So
exactly.
So when you talk to atheists, when you did your interviews and you talked to atheists, you said you felt like they were closer to God. I assume by that you really mean they were closer to the truth.
Right. Pretty much closer to the truth, yes. And to me, a higher being, higher realm holds that. And you guys cut the middleman out. Those atheists, it's something about an atheist, and there's, by the way, 17 types of atheists. A lot of people don't know about atheism, but it's technical. It's technical, and I learned that doing some research as well. But yes, they don't have the stumps in the middle. You don't have all this confusion from religion, from religious rules and teachings and their policies, and you guys go straight in. It's you're atheist as well, agnostic.
I like agnostic, because
okay.
because the belief that there is no God, the belief that we all came from an accident or whatever, I would call that atheism. But the belief that there might be a God, there might not, we don't know either way.
Right.
That to me seems the most rational approach.
Okay. So agnostic atheist, correct?
I would just say agnostic. I wouldn't even say agnostic atheist.
Okay.
Just agnostic.
Okay.
I mean, agnostic, might as well call me an agnostic Christian. I mean, who knows?
Yeah, absolutely.
Just agnostic, just plain agnostic.
Please, don't make a fuss. I'm just plain yogurt.
Okay, so but you do believe in a higher realm. You just don't,
No.
It's just.
What if there isn't a higher realm? What if this is all
What if
there
it
is?
is? Okay.
It's possible. I mean, we don't know, right?
Right.
Right? We don't know. This could be all there is to life, so make the most of it. Enjoy it while we're here.
Okay. That's right. So do you believe in life after death?
There could be. But one of my favorite ideas to sort of entertain is, what if there is a God, and what if we are all created here, and we were all put in this universe, and there's still no such thing as the afterlife?
Or shall I say, I have a friend that say, the bad people come back as bed bugs.
But think about this for a minute, because if you read the Old Testament, God kills people directly. He helps the Jews the Jews are his chosen people, so the people who are harassing them, his enemies, God smites them. He just kills them. It doesn't say he sends them to hell. And if he just killed them and took them with him to heaven, what was the point? Why not just take them to heaven directly? It was written from a point of view, if you really read it, that that life was temporary. Yeah, God created us, and God is on our side, and God is interfering with our lives, or he's helping us, or whatever, but this is all there is.
Amazing.
And another thing, if you go back and you read some of the other books of the Bible, I guess one of my favorites is the story of Cain and Abel. After Cain kills Abel, God says, "What have you done? Where's Abel?" And then God has to go around and look for a minute, and then he comes back and he's like, "Hey, what did you do?" Well, this is not written like he's all-knowing. This is not the omnipotent God that we all imagine today.
Right. Well, mankind actually had a lot to do with all that, the different verses and passages in the Bible.
A lot to do with it. It was the whole thing was written by
man. Yeah, exactly. That just goes back to part 2. It's believing in the Bible and trusting in God is totally two different things. And through my Trinity interviews, I noticed with a lot of my interviewees, they actually they're the opposite. I believe the Bible is probably 10% of the truth. The 90% comes with having that awareness, being mindful in the moment, connected with God now, not when we die. Like my mom, there's the opposite. My mom, she wakes up and she is preparing for great tribulation. I wake up and I prepare for revelation. It's just a big difference. She wants to connect to God when she dies. I want to connect to God right now. It's just, and she's a Jehovah's Witness, active Jehovah's Witness, and it's just, there's just too much. It's an influx. It's just too much. It's not balanced. Their teachings, like I say over and over, they don't even know what they're learning, and that's sad. It goes back to just having that awareness, And
I would say that's more of a universal thing, because I think a lot of people who go to church every week, they don't really fully understand what they're reading. They haven't really thought through the implications.
But this is the thing, Justin. We are not to even understand.
Right.
We're supposed to trust.
Right.
And a lot of the stuff that's in the Bible, you gotta be. It's even a verse, I can't remember, but you have to be humble with what you're reading. God knew ahead of time that at some point the Bible was gonna get trickled down, and things are gonna be taken out, and hearsay charges with the writers. They even said Moses.
Jesus says there's going to be false teachers and false prophets.
Yes,
and that's used to explain by every single Bible believer.
Right.
every belief that contradicts their own, those are the false teachers and false prophets. They've got it right.
They've got it exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
All right, so the Protestants say they've got it right. The other guys are the false teachers or false
Exactly.
prophets. So the Catholics think they've got it right. It's everyone else that's the false teachers and false prophets.
What is it? Wolf in sheep's clothing. What is it? Wolf in sheep's clothing.
It's a wolf in sheep's clothing.
Well, my mom brought it up, and I'm like, oh my gosh. I'm like, well, that sounds like you guys. Like when
It's like, mother, what big eyes you have.
yeah, exactly. It's like, oh my God, like wow, everything. And you know, I went to see the movie Purge last night. It was so good, by the way. And this is an example. They were running for cover. The people that you can't go outside after dark. It's a purge by the government, and they were running for cover, whatever. If you're out on the street, basically, you're going to get shot or whatever. So the family and everyone, they ran to people they trusted. And when they got inside of the apartment in New York, wherever this was filmed, it was a purge going on in there. The sister shot the other sister and killed her. So you're running to people that you trust. Just like my mom runs to her organization. She trusts them. But I can't tell you how much she's duped. She's gotten duped. She has no idea that she's walking into a trap.
So you've got to worry about your enemies, but you also need to worry about your friends because they can betray you.
Exactly. You have this situation with the sister. You're running for cover, and there it is. It can happen right under that one roof where you're supposed to feel safe. You understand what I'm saying? You're supposed to feel safe. You know, you go to church, you go to your religion.
No, that's your home. That's your family. You think that you'll be safe from the outside world there, and you're not because it's infected them too. They've gotten to them. They've been reached.
Exactly. And the woman and I don't want to focus on the movie, but the sister, she took medication. She wasn't aware. She didn't see and acknowledge the signs of the other sister. She did not. She could have had she had that awareness. I'm not bringing God into it, but I'm just a certain awareness.
Well, I saw a movie last night too.
Did you?
Yeah, I saw Dawn of the Planet of the Apes. It's another good film with a lot of post-apocalyptic themes. I mean, this is basically the end of the human race. This was 90% of the human race had been wiped out. 10% survived because of something called the simian flu. So it's just
amazing. So we've had Armageddon a million times already?
Oh, in the theaters.
Yeah, well, yeah.
No, but that's the thing about it is that people just can't get the end of the world off their minds. I mean, not every single movie, but every single year there's tons of these movies that come out, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Where the world comes to an end, or damn near close to it.
Yeah, a doomsday.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, this is basically what's going to wipe out the whole human race.
And it goes back to the mindset. You have to think positively. You have to think that God is a great, loving God. You have to. I mean, your mind can take you exactly where you want to go in life.
Right, because some people don't necessarily believe that. Some people hate God, or some people think God's an angry God. He made the world just as a big joke or something.
That's why you have to have faith, and that's why you have to trust Him. You have to feel it in your heart. All the knowledge in the world will not bring you peace. All the riches in the world will not bring you peace. You can walk around filthy rich and just have a very empty heart, empty soul.
Yeah, money
you have to
bring
trust
happiness.
something. You have to be aware. It's so important. You have to be aware.
Or not. You don't have to be aware.
It's a choice. It's a choice.
Yes, you can
It's
choose
a
to
choice.
be aware.
Yes, absolutely. It's a choice.
But see, going back to what you said a second ago, you have to have faith. I don't think so. I think some people can choose not to have faith, and I think they can be perfectly happy. I think it's a perfectly valid choice. If you want to be atheist, if you want to be agnostic, I think there's so many people that can say, hey, I'm not convinced that there is a God, and I'm still going to be a good person. I'm still going to live my life, and if something comes along that changes my mind, great. I'm open to that
But
possibility.
I didn't say faith as in certain. I said faith. You can believe in anything. Like I said, you have to believe in something, or you'll fall for anything. So your faith might not be different. It might not be the same as my faith. You understand what I'm saying? I support you.
That makes sense.
I support you. I do. And I support a lot of victims. We're all victims. But I do support you. And your faith, again.
Wait a minute. How are we all victims?
We are. At the end of the day, we all are.
Of something, I guess.
Yes, of something. Of something. Absolutely.
You're right, because I just thought of I just remembered hearing this quote somewhere, is that we're all simultaneously oppressors and the oppressed.
Exactly. Absolutely.
Nobody's perfect. And
exactly.
There have all been times where
That's right.
we've been victimized, I suppose.
Absolutely.
By one form. Some of us worse than others, of course.
Exactly. That's right. That's right. You're right.
So my point is, I think that we can stand against the oppressors. I think if we look at groups like the Watchtower, I mean, they've done so many ridiculous things. You probably know more about it than I do because you've been exposed to the literature for so long. But we all know they don't like blood transfusions because of some line in the Bible that says you shall not take the blood of thy neighbor. I mean, really, come on. They didn't even have blood transfusions when that was written, did they? I mean, let's look at this logically for a minute.
Right, exactly.
And there's so many things in the Bible that people take out of context. Jehovah's Witnesses aren't the only ones that do this.
No, not at all. It's not a lot of religions, yes.
Christian Scientists are probably one of the worst. I mean, there's Christian Scientists that refuse to go to the doctor. They refuse to be hospitalized because they think that prayer is the answer to everything. As long as you just pray to God, you'll be fine. You know, I've never heard of somebody who broke a bone and then prayed to God and then the bone just snapped back into place. It doesn't work like that.
It doesn't work. And I know you think differently, but I always say, you know, God manifests himself into these doctors to heal that bone.
Well, and see,
you know,
if you believe in God and you believe in that stuff and you see these doctors that are curing people, why wouldn't you think to yourself, hey, maybe God made us smart enough, right? He made us smarter than the animals for a reason because we can figure out this medical knowledge. Maybe they're doing God's will. Maybe that's why I should go to the doctors because I believe in God.
Exactly. Instead of starving your kids to death because God told you so. That's morally confusion right there. That's not right.
That is the ugly side of religion.
Yeah.
And this
you
is
don't
where
starve your kids to death. You don't not eat certain foods and they come down with Parkinson's because, you know, 7-day Adventists, a prime example. I can't even tell you. I walk in there and they're jumping like popcorn. It's like, what's your diet like? Like, are you serious? Like, come on. God is a good God. He's positive. He's a positive, you know, supreme being. Or it. Some people think it's a woman. Some people it's, you know, but it's, you know, anything that robs your intellect or robs your individuality, it's just, I run. I run.
That's the key right there.
I run.
No, you said it. That's perfectly right because all these extremist groups, all the ones that try and discourage learning and discourage wisdom and discourage independent and critical thought, this is how people get suckered in, and before you know it, they're killing themselves either slowly or immediately. This is how these horrible incidents happen, like we talked about earlier. And these are how I don't even know what's worse. You know, one of those things where they kill themselves instantly, where there's like a mass suicide, or a whole lifestyle where they're depriving themselves of really living.
Exactly.
I'm not sure which fate is worse, and unfortunately, there's both of these things that go on in our society from extremist groups like the Watchtower and the Seventh-day Adventists and Christian Scientists.
Well,
and tons of these little cults that happen in these big and small towns.
Correct. I always say anything that messes with your psyche, there's a problem. In my situation, my sister, I was on her power. I was the power of attorney over her living will. She's in a hospital. She's dying. They brought her back to life. She denied a blood transfusion, and I saw it on her records. And when she made it out of the hospital, the first round, I asked her, I said, "Hey, can I ask you a question? You have down here that you're a Jehovah's Witness, and you're not. You've been attending over 40 years, but you never got baptized. You're not a Jehovah's Witness. You're denying a blood transfusion, but you're not. You're not. What can I get? How can I tell you you're not one? You have one foot in, like one leg in, one leg out. You can't live like that. It's an unbalanced system that they have going on there.
But she's been taught her whole life no blood transfusions, among a whole bunch of other different things.
It got lodged into her subconscious mind, yes.
Exactly. So she's at the point where even though I don't believe in the Jehovah's Witness and I don't trust the Watchtower and I don't want to be baptized and I'm not interested in that, but she doesn't necessarily want to take that extra step and get a blood transfusion, which could have saved her life.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And there's a lot of technology now. It's safer now than it's ever been.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you know what, different blood types, they can find out whether you're A
they can
type,
use your
B
own blood
type.
now. They can preserve your own blood. I mean, you don't even need to take blood from other people. It's
That's
different.
true. Now, do Jehovah's
Yes.
Witnesses have a problem with having your own blood fed back into you?
I'm sure there's some issues.
Because it's only your neighbor's blood.
But remember, they have an answer to every question. There's an answer for every question.
And that answer changes over time.
All the time. It does. And that's pretty different too. That's something I can't understand. But you know, sometimes the answers are not to be found. Sometimes it's just Because
I mean, if you look back at the early Watchtower literature, they wrote extensively how they opposed what they called the germ theory of disease.
you saw that, huh?
The idea that diseases are caused by germs, that's just, no, diseases were caused by sin.
Yeah, sin, exactly.
Yes.
It goes back to it. Everything goes back to if you listen to some of these religious authorities, you will, on the outside looking in, it's the opposite.
Right.
It's the total opposite. Everything that I was taught is the total opposite out there in the real world. That's just the way it is. And I know, again, you're agnostic, but when I pray and I connect to, that's why I have the veil over my head. I do that for me and God. It's a sacred thing. I'm not Muslim. I'm not into any of that, but I just want to pray. It's just me and God. We're connecting. That's my meditation.
And I was going to ask you about that because I've never seen you with the veil.
No, it's just a personal thing. Yeah, it's just a personal thing I've formed when I was a little girl. I did not want to get caught praying, and they thought I was praying to their God. I was praying to God, not your religious God, not your Jehovah. I was praying to God, and I didn't want
your thing,
my
not
thing.
their
As a
thing.
little girl, I was doing my thing. I didn't want to let my guard down. I didn't want them to think, she's praying to. I didn't want them to get excited that I'm praying to their religion or anything. I wanted to separate that. So I went in the closet and I put a towel over my head. I didn't have a veil. I had a towel or a scarf, a little something, and I prayed. That's how I did my own
You were
thing.
literally in the closet as you were praying.
I hid
Wow.
to pray. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you wanted to send the message that you were having nothing to do with them.
Oh yeah. I could, to my mom I rebelled. My dad I rebelled. I'm rebellious. So, but I was actually connecting to the higher supreme being. I was doing my thing. I was a good girl. I wasn't the Satan or the devil or the apostate or boogeyman. I was just simply, I believed in something that was just different otherwise. Simple as that. It's just different.
One thing that I remember hearing about from the interviews that you had conducted is that every single one of them ended the same way.
Yes, they
Right?
all, every one of them, amazing.
You would question people. Well, walk me through that process. You would question the people, right?
Yes, I would question them, and everyone had their own truths. And at the end of the interview, every interview would end this way. Rather they're happy or sad or content with what they just told me, that no one knows the truth. No one knows the truth. My Jehovah's Witness, my Seventh-day Adventist, agnostic, the plain atheist, Pentecostal, Roman Catholic, Jewish, everyone, they all said the same thing at the end of the interviews. No one knows the truth. And to me, that's profoundly, that's just profound. It's appalling.
But to me, that's honest. The problem is, if no one knows the truth, why do they cling on to Jewish, or why are they clinging on to Roman Catholic? Because they've known that their whole lives.
Exactly.
They can't get away.
Exactly.
But for me, as an agnostic, I take that one point that one conclusion. Well, no one knows, and I use that as a starting point. Well, that's where my worldview comes from. Nobody knows the truth, and then you think, well, what do we know? Obviously, there's some things that we do know, right? And a lot of our knowledge that we have comes from science. So I kind of use that as my guide.
Exactly.
And
That's right.
and it's really crazy to be in the 21st century. All the modern conveniences that we have, everybody has an internet connection, everybody has a cell phone, everybody has lights and heating and air conditioning, and it helps us survive the winters and the summers and the extreme weather and whatever. How can you not look at the science and the technology and say, okay, these guys have it right? Because just in the last 200 years alone, science has done more than religion has ever done for the world in its entire history.
Absolutely. And I tell that to my mom all the time. Oh, we're living in the last days. I'm like, I think we're living in better days now. From what I see, what happened back then, I'd rather kind of be here than there. I'm sorry.
And I've always thought that to myself too. I've always thought that if you could live at any point in history, guess what? I'd rather be a poor person today than a rich person living 500 years ago, because what kind of quality of life was there, really?
Exactly. It's twisted. It's morally twisted.
We're so lucky to be alive in the period that we're in now, in this day and age. And why is it so much better? What makes today better? It's all the scientific progress that we've made. And this is the dangerous part to me about religion, is that religion has really held us back from making as much progress as we could have been.
Oh, yes. It's dumbed down. It's like a dumbed down method they use. We're set up for failure.
And look at how when the early scientists started to come out, look at how the church made them their enemies. You know, when the telescope first came out, they said that was an invention of the devil. When the airplane first came out, they said if God wanted us to fly, he would have given us wings.
God, ignorance is bliss.
Even the fork. When the fork was first invented, people were like, well, I'm not going to eat with that. That's an affront to God.
Wow.
So everything that we have today, what if there hadn't been any religion back then to say that stuff?
Wow.
What if the scientists had been a little bit more free because they didn't have to worry about being excommunicated or executed?
Exactly.
What if they were just free to pursue their inventions and their studying? And I think the world could be much further advanced
Absolutely.
than it is right now.
Well, that's where China comes into play. They're on top of things right now because when the kids are born, they're taught differently from America. The society here is a lot different. We have so many different religions, and the parents want to baptize the kids in all these religions, and they're teaching these kids religion. Where science, it's totally a whole different system. The kids are taught how to utilize critical thinking right off the rip. And that's why these 5-year-olds can go in and do algebra, and 10-year-olds are graduating from high school. It's just amazing. The difference in culture. Everything it's just totally different. I mean, America, we're founded off of religion, really. I mean, if you look at it. I mean, your dollar bill has "In God We Trust." I mean, everything is,
You know, what I would like to think is that America was more founded on individualism and freedom, and you can pick your own religion, or you can decide not to pick any religion, and we have the freedom to do that. But all the other stuff, "In God We Trust" on the money, and the one nation under God, and the Pledge of Allegiance, all that stuff was added way after the fact. That was not anything that the Founding Fathers
well,
had.
there's too much money in religion, and the government knows that. It's a lot of money. It's a lot of money invested. You're talking $1 billion industry, billions of dollars in religion.
Yeah.
This is why I put in there that there's religion.
They're non-profit.
Wee doggy, but this is by far no accident. If you really think about it.
I guess that's it.
Yes, that's it.
All right.
It's a wrap.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.